All right. Good evening and hello from Centralia. I sorry did not was not able to get on last night, but the internet was not cooperating, and was afraid if I got on here that it would just to go belly up because I'm hoping to be able to use some videos and some graphics differently than I normally do. So we'll see. All right, so here we are at the end of Memorial Day weekend, and let's see, I'm gonna make a couple of adjustments here. I put load comments, but what I'm using, I never get to see them. So, anyways, all right. So if you're out there, say something, and then my personal assistant, Carrie Tabor, sitting right across the table from me, she will let me know if you've got questions during this evening. Just as they come up, type them out, and we will try to capture that, and then I'll try to answer those questions as part of the discussion. And Kathy Curry, hey, from Florida. All right, we are so jealous. I just saw that you are at McGuire's, and so I hope that you have to kiss the moose before you leave it out of there if you have not already left. We recommend the cheesecake. All right, highly recommend the cheesecake. And anything on the menu. Make sure you get the Senate soup, but anything on the menu is incredible there. The burgers are burger steaks, pretty wide variety there. So good to see you there. Jamie Nicole Johnson, thank you for checking in. I'm sorry that your husband was gone all day. I don't know if he's still gone, but I really did give him the. Hey Jacob, I see you jumped on here now. I really did see you. Yeah, I hit that, and so I've got it up and I'm seeing them now. But normally I'll see a couple of them, but I won't see all of them. So, anyways, I'm gonna try to follow you guys this time. So, Jake, thank you for working on your day off today, and Jamie, thank you for letting him do that. We've got some great things coming at Temple. And a part of that was some of the installation that's happened today, tomorrow. And so anyways, I think you guys are going to be impressed when you get back into church. All right, so this past weekend was Memorial Day weekend. Phenomenal weekend for me personally. And so I just wanted to share with you. So last week, let me see if I can pull this up. Let's see. Last week I had... challenge you guys to develop gratitude. The Bible tells us that we need gratitude. And then what I'm going to do on every one of these going deeper nights is teach you a different skill. So I talked about the core competencies last week, but really what was important, not only do you do an inventory of those core competencies in your life, but that you're able to develop gratitude at will. And the skill that I taught was finding blessings. So I'm going to go through that with you right now. And so if you remember, let's see. All right. When I challenge you guys to do finding your blessings, I challenge you to find 3 good things in the last 72 hours. So I'm going to share with you 3 good things that have happened to me in the last 72 hours. And I'm going to do that with these pictures I'm going to share with you. All right. So let me try to make this one just on the screen by itself. And see if you can't see that there. So on Saturday, this is Memorial Day weekend, and on Saturday, my brother and my sister and myself, along with our families, had the opportunity to go and visit my dad's gravesite there in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, at Western Kentucky Veterans Cemetery. And so there is our precious little niece, Tessa, and my sister, Amy, looking at the headstone. And it really was just powerful to be able to go there, see all the flags out, and to be able to, say thanks to Dad for his service. He's the reason why I joined the military and put in 28 years. So anyway, so that was one of the blessings. The second blessing, let's see, let me go the other way, was that we got to recreate this picture here. And so this is my brother and my sister and I And so the top picture there was taken right before I was deploying. It was actually over in Granite City, Illinois, in Carrie's mom and dad's backyard. And I was going through combat skills training up at Fort Riley, and one of the weekends all the family got together, and so we took this picture. And then on Saturday we had the opportunity to take that same picture again and kind of duplicate it 13 years later. All right, some of us aged not so well. Look at all that gray. All right, so now I look like the mature one of the group. All right, that's what I say for oldest. And my sister, when she gets on here, she will let you know that she likes to let everyone think that I'm the oldest, even though she is, by a lot of years. Okay, so that was my second blessing over the weekend. And then the third one was I had the chance to go and spend a day and a half with my first youth pastor. This is Greg Wilson, and went and got to attend church in Illinois. We don't know what that's like, so I got to attend church live in person. Got to hear singing, got preaching, got to hug on, love on people. And then on Sunday night, he allowed me to preach at his church, so I enjoyed that. And so 40 years ago, this was my youth pastor. And here, this picture is 40 years later. So this was really a great weekend. A lot of nostalgia, a lot of going back and checking out great things. And so let's see, and I want to show you, when you're doing this, finding your blessings, and you go through that, I love using pictures because it just takes me right there in the moment. And but here's what I want you to remember as you think about, and as you use the questions about each of those blessings. Number one is that blessings are not accidents. You don't wake up and stumble across blessings, all right? They happen for a reason. And, if I wouldn't have gone down to Clarksville for the weekend to help my brother on a project, these blessings wouldn't have happened. If we wouldn't have gone out of our way to go and stay and spend a day and a half with Greg and Debbie, these blessings wouldn't have happened. So they're not freak accidents, and also that it means something. The fact that, when I'm thinking about 3 blessings in the last 72 hours and these 3 things happen, it's a lot of times we say, well, it means the world to me, but I want you to really put words into it. And so, I don't know if you can hear the emotions, but just being out, thinking about, visiting dad and then mom, it's hard, but it's a good joy. When I think about spending the weekend with my brother and sister, we don't get to do those all the time, and so each one of those are valuable. And then knowing that through the weekend we helped Jason with a project at his house that he'd been wanting to get accomplished, so feel really good about that. And then having the ability to recreate that picture. I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and so that it paid off. So it means something to me. And remember this, that you have a role in your blessings. A lot of times you discount yourself. You think that it's somebody else, or that, again, it's the 4-leaf clover that you came across. But you had a part in that, and I recognize that I had a part in that blessing. And not only that, but other people. Someone else had a part in the blessing that you experienced. My brother and my sister, their families, the people who put the flags out at the cemetery, Greg and Debbie, man, they loved on us. We got there, went to church with them, went home, and Debbie had roasted or smoked ribs. They were delicious, and I ate a lot. Then she had corn and green beans and biscuits and mashed potatoes. It was good. All right. Then banana pudding. All right. It's going to be good when they say, when you ask what's for dessert, and they're like, do you want banana pudding or strawberry pie? All right. Those are 2 wonderful things. And so I had banana pudding, and then that evening we had strawberry pie. Woke up the next morning and she had breakfast, eggs and bacon and biscuits and gravy, and Cracker Barrel didn't have anything on what Debbie put together. Then we went around to some Mennonite different marketplaces, and then met one Mennonite family. And so that was pretty cool. And then got a bucket of strawberries just for showing up. And then Greg sends me off with, he found out my favorite jelly was strawberry and buys a case of strawberry jelly made by the Mennonites, and sends that off with me. Anyways, it was great. I had a great time. And so when you look at your blessings, other people had a role in those blessings. Okay, just a little bit more of talking about last week. And what I want you to do is I want you to, if you have the ability, go to our church website, which is, all right, so you can see that, tbccentralia.com/Monday. All right, and the reason why I want you to go there is because I'm putting resources on there for you every week as we go through this. And so this shows you that it's, here's the downloadable content. I'm going to switch this over to just one screen so you can see that. So there's downloadable content. And then today I uploaded a participant guide. So this is, all right, this is the participant guide. So if you just click that, either the picture, do a right click and download it, but you can get 53 pages. This has a lot of worksheets in here that you can do finding your blessings, and it has a lot of the information that I'm giving you that if you're taking notes or you missed something, that will help you out. So I encourage you, if you're a tactile learner, print up that participant guide. That will make things a little more fun for you. If you missed last week's video, if you look right here, you'll see that it is right there. You just click on that little button right there, and then that plays the YouTube version. And I don't think I had this. I had this as a slide, but I didn't have this accessible to you all. But you can download this picture and take an inventory of your core competencies. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you with emotion regulation? Scale of 1 to 10, impulse control, optimism, mental gymnastics, social awareness, confidence, and community. And as we go through at the end of each lesson, I'm going to point back to these core competencies. And for example, finding blessings, that is designed to help build optimism. Now, I believe, and I think I can demonstrate that it will help in all of those, but there's usually one or more that is just really obvious. And like tonight, I'm going to teach you another skill, and it's going to be pretty obvious the one or two areas that it can help in when it comes to these core competencies. In the bottom, well, what we believe is that if you can score across the board to the right on that column, close to 7, 8, 9s, most likely you have good relationships and you're able to maintain good relationships. If you're struggling, if you're hitting some 1s, 2s, and 3s in any of these core competencies, you're probably having challenges. And by developing and shoring up those core competencies, you are going to help take any relationship to the next level. So, I mean, I can say this with confidence. I've seen it, done it, and watched other people do it as well. All right, so there we go. Core competencies, and then if you keep scrolling down, you'll see there are the Finding Your Blessings card. Identify 3 good things, just like I did, and then answer these questions. I'd encourage you as families, do this around the dinner table or breakfast or wherever. And, I think you'll grow together as a family if you do this. Week 2, here we are, learning your ABCs. So this past Sunday, I preached on the topic of stinking thinking. And now I want to expound on that and then give you a skill that helps you get out of that stinking thinking. There are 2 items that you can download here on Monday for week 2. One is this, and I'm going to walk through how to do this. And then, and that is the ABC worksheet, and then the thought consequences chart. If you remember a couple weeks ago during the storms, on the unseen storms, I kind of talked through many of this very quickly. And tonight I'm really going to dig into this and help you. This is one of the most powerful things that you can learn to help you improve your relationships. These are relationships in your home, at work, with family, with friends, doesn't matter. When you get this, when you understand and you can start connecting the dots in your own life and the actions that are happening, boy, it's powerful. Okay, so with that being said, let me get into the teaching tonight. So that was 8 minutes of introduction or review. And now I want to talk to you about going deeper in when it comes to stinking thinking. And I shared with you from Scripture how the Bible tells us, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Well, the Bible, here's what I've learned is that the Bible is timeless and there's nothing new under the sun. There's so many powerful principles there. And then science comes along and says, aha, we discovered something. And it's been there in Scripture. This is one of those things. You hear a lot about how you can control who you are and what you become by controlling your thoughts. Well, the Bible has been on that since at least 2,500 years ago, and when David penned those words in the book of Proverbs. And so I would encourage you, listen tonight and discover how that you can really control what you're thinking and ultimately what you do. And the way that we do this is through learning our ABCs. And this is just a skill, all right? Remember I talked about skills where if you wanted a bigger biceps, you would go you do this skill called the curl. And as you increased more weight to it, your biceps is going to naturally get bigger. You're going to give the right nutrition so that your muscles can grow. Doing all those things, combine them together with that skill of the curl, and you're going to get good results. What's really powerful about the skills that I'm teaching through this they're called self-reinforcing. What that means is because they work, it gives you more courage to try others. So for example, many of you heard me talk about finding your blessings. You saw me do it. You maybe even watched someone else do it. But you haven't participated. You really haven't gone down that road. And it may seem like it's a little difficult, and that's okay. Maybe tonight, learning your ABCs, the light bulb's going to pop, and you're like, that is incredible. And at some point, you're going to go back and say, you know what, I'm going to try that finding your blessings thing again. And the reality is this, they work. And because they work, we do them over and over again. And so one of the most powerful skills, learning your ABCs, so let me talk about that. Why do I want you to learn your ABCs? Well, I want to help you get control over your emotional thermostat. Remember, I talked about how that all of us, wouldn't it be nice to have a little emotional thermostat? I'm looking at a Nest thermostat. I think about how I can pull up my phone and I can control it through that. Wouldn't it be nice to have that emotional thermostat that we could just dial in if we want it to be hotter or warmer in the house, or if we want it to be nice and cool? I mean, this past weekend, I know a lot of you have been turning on your air conditioners. Some of you finding out that the air conditioner is not working the way you want it to. And so that's what the ABCs are. And I want to help you get control over your emotional thermostat. How do we do that? Well, we need to be able to identify our beliefs, and today I want to talk about our hot thoughts, about adversity or activating events, and the consequences that result because of those activating events. All right, and what I'm going to reveal to you is it's not really the event; it's how we process the event. And ultimately, I want to empower you and give you control over your emotions. Many of you watching this believe that you're helpless when it comes to your emotions. That you feel that way, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm here to tell you that there's hope, that there is something you can do about it, and you can control. You can take ownership anytime, and when you're ready to do that. And tonight I'm going to share with you a skill that will help you. Okay, so reaction to events. Normal or most people probably would consider themselves not an ABC person, but A to C person. What does that mean? That activating event happens and consequences result. All right. So let me give you an example. I'm hoping that the video works. I'm about to play a video. Please let me know if you are hearing sound from the video, just so I know. Otherwise, I may not be able to use the other video. So if you're hearing sound, just say sound's coming through. I'm going to try to turn it up as loud as I can. And let's see if it plays. All right, so here we go. I'm going to play this video. Oh, wouldn't you know it? Yeah, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go. and play that video a different way. Oh. Give me just a second. I'm pulling it up on YouTube, and I need to go to one of my playlists. All right, so you should be hearing sound. I'm going to go full screen for you. All right, let me know if you're getting sound on this. It's just a little bit of background music right now. Turn it up for a second. All right, so that was a commercial, and I hope that you heard the sound. I didn't get any feedback from you, and I don't have a. All right, sounds like the sound did come through. All right, so the situation was that, and this was a prank. All right, this is a prank over in Europe, and what they did was they filled this movie theater with those biker, rough-looking guys, and then they left 2 seats open up in the middle. Right, I mean, you had to climb over people to get to them. And so as the couples would come in, they would buy the 2 tickets, they would walk in there, and you saw the response. And what's interesting is that even though this was a prank, the people walking in the theater didn't know that was a prank. But did you notice how that each of them responded differently? I mean, some of them like turned around and just walked out. So I'm getting my money back. Others, they kind of contemplated. Did you see the one where one went up the stairs and the other's like grabbing her and, hey, let's get out of here? But then there were a bunch of couples that walked up the steps, found the 2 seats, climbed over the different people, and then when the prank was revealed, and obviously Carlsbad Beer was the sponsor of that commercial. And everyone's cheering and celebrating, and now they, things changed. What changed? Well, what they were thinking about changed. All right. And so thoughts drive our behaviors. And I want to show you how, with a couple of other videos and a couple of personal examples, how that you can use this skill, this ABC. So for example, what was the activating event there? Well, that was walking into a movie theater and only having 2 seats available. What were the thoughts that they were telling themselves? Well, some said, hey, I'm out of here. I'm going to go get my money back. Others were saying, you know what? I've been waiting 6 months for this movie. We're going to go up there. We're going to sit down, and it doesn't matter. But based on what they told themselves, based on their thoughts, every one of them had a twofold consequence. And one was an emotional response, and the other was a physical response. So I'm going to dig into this a little bit later on this chart and how to use it. So let's talk about activating events. We all have them. Matter of fact, I would bet that everyone out there watching this has had activating events today, have had activating events multiple today. I don't know what those are in each of us. Some people, what we would consider an activating event, to others, it's just no big deal. When an activating event happens, what we have to learn to do is find out what happened. And this is the hardest part, is of just sticking to the facts. How do we just stick to the facts? Well, it's very simple. I ask these 4 questions: who, what, when, and where. Once you get beyond the who, what, when, and where, you start going into what I call a diatribe. And really what you're talking about is not the activating event. You're talking about the way that you're processing that. And so what I've learned is that an activating event it's a trigger. It can be a challenge and adversity. It could be something positive. When I've taught this many times and I ask, give me the best example of a positive activating event, every time they come back to winning the lottery. But if I'll just let that seep in there with the room for a few minutes, it doesn't take very long before someone points out that, well, you know what, there are bad things that come with winning the lottery. And that is where I, really want to take us tonight. And, it doesn't matter what the activating is. It could be a challenge, could be a situation, could be adversity. It could be something good, a positive event. Finding out that your wife is pregnant, that could be a great thing. You've been trying for years and yes, it's here. Or, you've had 7 kids and you weren't planning on number 8. And so it's a challenge. And certainly you might consider an activating event, getting married. Some people, this is super exciting, and others, they walk into that relationship with a lot of nerves. So what determines if it's a positive or negative is really how we interpret it. All right, so activating events is the first thing. That's the A. The B is our beliefs. Tonight, I'm really going to talk about our thoughts, and I'm going to, between tonight and next week, I'm going to kind of make a distinction between thoughts and beliefs. Thoughts are the surface. Those are things that you easily tell other people. It's things that are very obvious about you, surface thoughts. Beliefs are more deeply held. Those are coming from the heart, and those we guard a little bit more. And so stay with me between this week and next week, and I'm going to show you the difference between, thoughts and beliefs. But here's what we know: because thoughts drive behavior, or hot thoughts are immediate thoughts, they drive immediate reactions. Matter of fact, I would argue that there are a lot of people out here watching this tonight, and you believe that, you're a take action kind of person. Something happens and you know exactly what you're going to do when it happens. And you probably even tell yourself, I don't even have to think about it. I just respond. I'm a man of action. You're that A to C kind of person. The reality is that there has been thought, and thoughts do go into that. The truth is that we have between 27 and 50,000 thoughts, and depending on which study, they go up to 90,000 thoughts per day. So when activating event happens, we have a lot of thoughts. And those thoughts can either be productive or counterproductive. And so what I want to do tonight is to help you take those thoughts from being counterproductive. Remember the master's degree of negativity that we all have? We should have it framed and prominently displayed on our walls. Well, it shows itself in those 27,000 to 50,000 thoughts that we have a day, and that we continually go and we find the negative, we find the cloud, we find the rain, and we don't look for the sunshine. All right, the third part of this, ABC, is consequences. Consequences are twofold. There's an emotional consequence or emotional reaction, and then there's a physical consequence or a physical reaction. The emotional consequence is what you feel in response to the activating event. When it comes to the physical reaction, this is what you do, or this is how your body reacts. So, for example, when you are getting irritated with somebody, you might start, your toe starts going 1,000 miles a minute, or maybe you twiddle your thumbs, or maybe you crack your knuckles, or maybe your blood vessels start, or you get real red. Those are the physiologic or the physical responses based on the emotional response, which is based on the thoughts that we have. Well, let me show you what I'm talking about. When it comes to emotions or feelings, these are always accompanied with a physiologic response. And a lot of times we just have never taken the time to correspond the emotion with the physiology that goes with that. So if I were to ask a group, give me an example of emotions, more often than not, the word anger comes out. I mean, that's an emotion. Everybody identifies that as emotion. Most guys, we think that's the only emotion. All right, it's not true. There's a lot of them. If you download the booklet, you will see that there are, I think I give 7 or 8 different emotions, and then synonyms that go along with those. And one of the things I try to do when I teach this course is to help people understand in synonyms, because you may say anger and someone else is thinking rage, whereas another person is thinking peeved. Well, I think we all could agree that peeved and angry and rage are very different. There's certainly a scale there. And based on how we're thinking about that, and based on the real word that we are living out, that emotional response is going to correspond. Let's see here. This is the chart. And so I want you to understand that this is what scientists have, they've validated this. And the scientists will tell you this is 99 point something percent accurate. And I just want to tell you it's accurate. All right. And so, for example, if you are thinking about something that you lost recently, you are going to experience a sadness called emotion. An emotion called sadness. And that it could be your favorite pen that you lost. It could be a pet that ran away. It could be somebody in your family who passed away recently. This past weekend, thinking about dad and mom and visiting their gravesite, absolutely had thoughts of loss. And, even the rest of the weekend, there were many times where I thought about, what I'd be doing with dad or mom if they were here right now. When I experience that emotion of sadness, or you experience that emotion of sadness, the natural physical response is to withdraw, to be a little quieter. Maybe you're in the car with somebody or a group of somebody's, and you're thinking about that loss, whether, again, pen, a pet, or a loved one. And what you'll find yourself is, you get sullen, you get quiet, you just stay to yourself and keep your thoughts within. Folks, there's nothing wrong with that, all right? A couple times a year, get very, very sad when I think about mom or dad, especially around birthdays or around events like this, Memorial Day, I think that all of us, this is healthy for us to, really to appreciate what my mom and dad did for me. And here I am, a 50-year-old grown man, and I can break down in tears. I got a DVD that I made when my mom passed away, and once a year I'll pull that out, and man, I'm an idiot. I'm crying. I usually go by myself and watch this, and so there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with shedding tears. There's nothing wrong with being sad, but all of these emotions have a time and a place. And so what I would tell you is, if you're sitting outside the boss's office and you're about to get yelled at, maybe that's not the time to touch this emotion of sadness or the thoughts of losing something. Like you're thinking about, I'm going to lose my job. The boss hadn't said you're fired yet. You're just making these assumptions. And so it causes you to react a certain way. I'll go down that chart a little further, and it says if you have thoughts of losing something, thoughts of impending danger, then you experience the emotion called anxiety. Fear is part of that synonym for anxiety. And the physical response to fear, the physical response to anxiety is one of agitation. And you know what somebody looks like if they're agitated. If they got a pen, they're like click, 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 or they just tapping on something. Or when I'm at a speaking event and I see people out there and their foot is just going, their whole body is calm and they act like they're looking at me, but their foot is just shaking. Like if they were on a bench, it'd be shaking everybody else on the bench. And what I realize is, like, they're thinking about something bad's going to happen. Either they hate the way I'm speaking, or they don't like the fact that this is an 8-hour class and they're only in hour number 2. They may be thinking about the fact that their husband or wife is in the hospital, or that they're going to be late to pick up their kid because of another circumstance. I don't know what it is, but when they are thinking about that impending danger, the anxiety is the natural emotional response, and the agitation is a natural response. Well, what happens when somebody just comes up to you when you're in an agitated state and they say something nice like, "Hey, it's a beautiful day outside," and you just like snap at them? Now, they are like, "What in the world did I say?" So now you just create an activating event for them. And you're sitting there thinking that, just leave me alone, or I want to think about this other thing, or you maybe a little bit further down the chart that you hurt somebody. Trespass. All right. What do I mean by trespass? Trespass is when you believe that your rights have been violated by somebody else. Like your rights are cut and dry, and somebody violates those rights. That's the thoughts of trespass. And when we have trespass thoughts, we experience a wonderful emotion called anger. And remember, there's a big spectrum of anger depending on who you are. And so when you believe your rights are violated, when you are mad at somebody, just ask that question: what line did they cross? Because you know what it was. A lot of times you won't have that conversation with you. You won't be honest with yourself. But I'm here to tell you, anytime you're angry, you're going to you can go back to what they did that was an offense to you. And a lot of times you may find out that it really wasn't what they did. It was something that you had done all along. Well, when you experience anger, you are going to have a physical response of aggression or attack. Now, let me just say that attack and aggression can take many forms. It could be verbal. You could yell at them. You could cuss at them. You could tell them, say bad things about them. Or it could be physical, where you hit them, slap them, throw something at them. Or it might be where you don't do it to them, but you punch a hole in the wall. You're driving down the street and maybe just slam onto the steering wheel. When you believe that your rights have been violated, and you experience that that emotion of anger, you are going to be aggressive. You're going to do something. Road rage, perfect example of this. Now, going down the thought consequences chart, you look at the inflicting harm. If you believe that you've inflicted harm on somebody else, then you are going to experience the emotion called guilt. And when you experience the emotion called guilt, you are going to want to apologize. And if you don't apologize, what you find out is that this guilt just stays with you and it doesn't go anywhere. And what I've learned is that, maybe I've hurt somebody. Maybe it was with words I said, maybe it was with action I've taken. And I know that, and like, I know I need to apologize. I'm wanting to apologize, but then I think, well, they did this and I'm not going to apologize to them. And until that guilt outweighs that pride, we don't. Have you ever done that? Where a year later, you finally got it off your chest, you went and you apologized, and you felt like just the world had been lifted off of your shoulders. Well, here's why. Because the natural response when you've inflicted harm on somebody, when you've hurt somebody, again, whether emotionally, physically, or verbally, doesn't matter. You experience guilt, and you carry that with you until you apologize to get that off. Negative comparison. If you believe that you don't measure up, the emotion that you're going to experience is embarrassment. And when you're embarrassed, you're going to hide. And what's interesting is if you look at negative comparison versus losing something, withdrawal versus hiding, here's the distinction. When you lose something, it is internal. I know you're probably thinking it's the pen or it's the pet or it's the family member, but it's really the internal loss. When you have negative comparison, it's external. It's somebody looking at you, and you believe that you don't measure up, and so you're embarrassed, and then you physically hide. You avoid that circumstance. I remember years ago going into a store called the Commissary on military bases, and they had these one-way lanes. And I was going the wrong. I didn't know about the arrows. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't like going shopping, but I was TDY to Keesler Air Force Base. I'm going down the wrong way, and so when I turn, I'm going down the wrong way, and I kept passing these people, and they were making these rude comments to me. For the longest time, I did not want to. I mean, to this day, I really don't even like going into the commissary. Now, with COVID-19 happening, I see these lanes popping up in Walmart and Target and places like that. And ask Carrie, I sit out in the truck and let her go shop. And I'm not afraid of those arrows and those lanes. But years and years ago, I allowed something to make me feel like I didn't measure up. And so what did I do? I hid. I avoided that. And I'll bet that you can think of things where you've had negative comparison. Maybe my mom, I remember this story that my mom used to cook a lot. And then when I was in my teenage years, she didn't cook so much. And so my dad was like the master breakfast maker. And I just thought he liked making breakfast. The rest of the story was one day he had complained about mom's cooking breakfast. And so she said, fine, you cook breakfast. And so she didn't make breakfast for decades. And it wasn't that she wasn't a good cook. It wasn't that we didn't love it. It's, she had felt that negative comparison, that embarrassment. And how did she hide? Not cooking breakfast. She'd cook other meals, but not breakfast. Going down that chart, if you believe that you've had a positive contribution, you've helped somebody out, you experience that emotion called pride. And when you experience the emotion pride, there's usually a twofold physical response to that. One is you share it. You see this on Facebook all the time. You do something good. I just saw it on Facebook. One of the guys that I served with just re-enlisted with the military. So he puts on that re-enlistment. Rarely does anybody go on Facebook and put like the bad things, the negative comparison things where they don't measure up, they're embarrassed, why they're hiding. When you have a positive contribution, pride, you share that. Moms that have victory in potty training. They never talk about the day that the kid peed his pants 8 times. But the one day, the first day that is perfect, or when they know that they don't have any more accidents for a week, that's when they get on there and they talk about that and they celebrate that, and their friends that have kids celebrate with them. Or you could, so sharing is one way of demonstrating that pride, or the other is to plan future achievements. When you do something well at work and the boss recognizes that, or you get a pay raise, what do? You find other ways. What else can I do? Versus getting beat down and told, you don't measure up, and I hate the work that you're doing. All right, moving down the chart, appreciation. If you have received a gift from somebody, and you can, and look, this gift could be in a box wrapped up with a bow on it. It could be a pin that somebody gives you. It could be a pat on the back, words of affirmation from somebody you respect. If you have thoughts of appreciation, you experience that emotion of gratitude. That's what finding blessings do. What you do is you relive those moments of appreciation, and it develops that emotion of gratitude. And when we develop that emotion of gratitude, another twofold response. We give thanks, we say thank you, or we pay it forward. We do something good and nice for somebody else. Already I'm thinking about this past weekend and how that we were given some things that I valued, and I'm thinking how I can do that and help other people out. Last thing, if you believe that you have a positive future, if this is what you're thinking about, things are going to work out, you experience an emotion called hope. And hope, when you have that, the physical response to this is that you are energized and you take action. Now contrast that. Let's just think about COVID-19 right now. There are, I listened to an article, and it talked about how that the economy, there is hope, a positive future. The market's rebounding. Businesses are starting to open back up. And the emotion of hope is what's being seen in these businesses. And what does that do? That energizes them to take action. Things that they wouldn't have done 2 months ago, go oh, it's risky. We don't know what's going to happen. Now they're ready to take action. Same thing is true for Carrie and I. This past weekend was the first time we got to go and sit down in a restaurant. You know, it was funny as we're about to go in, Carrie's like, I can almost cry. You know, that is a great example of experiencing that hope, being energized, and wanting to take action. And so what did we do on the way home? We stopped at another restaurant, before we got back into Illinois where everything's still locked down. So all of us, now what I want to do is I'm going to go through some examples and show you how that this comes back into play. So stay with me on this. All right, so I've told you this a couple of times. Our thoughts lead to our reactions. There's an activating event, the A. Our beliefs or our hot thoughts about that are going to drive the behavior. And the behavior is going to be twofold. It's either an emotional consequence or a physical consequence. An emotional reaction or a physical reaction. So if we're doing this, how do we stay in the activating event? How do we stay objective? Because really that's the key. If you can get objective about the activating event, it will help you tremendously. All right. And the way you do that is you just have to answer these questions: who, what, when, and where. All right. Now leave out all of the gory details. Those gory details come in those hundreds, if not thousands of thoughts. So activating event, stay objective. How do we do it? Stay objective? Stay within the box. The who, what, when, and where. All right. And then the thoughts are all of those things that you're thinking about. And based on what you're thinking about, you're going to have an emotional and a physical response. Now, I come across this and I changed it up a little bit. And Yoda here, no feel, do or do not. There is no feel. Now, that's not what Yoda said, and that is not a correct statement. But a lot of you believe that there is no feeling. Like you take action, you do things, and I want you to understand that really you do. All of us do. All right. And so here's what I want to do: is I want to change the screen here a little bit. Okay. And so I'm going to give you an example, and this is, you can see I've got sheet after sheet after sheet. This is how, if you were to ask me to help you on a certain situation, and I use the ABCs, this is how I would do that. And so I'm going to give you an example that happened to me not too far from here many years ago, and that was, Ronnie Tabor. Ronnie T. All right, what happened? I was driving through McDonald's. When did it happen? 6 a.m. Where did it happen? This was in O'Fallon or Shiloh. But I was driving through McDonald's 6 o'clock in the morning, and this person gave me the bird. All right, who, what happened, when, or when and where. All right, that's objective. Okay, now you're about to find out that there was a little more to the story. Okay, and so if you ask me, well, what are your thoughts about this? Well, here's what happened. I'm driving through this McDonald's parking lot, and I see this dilapidated blue Toyota Tercel, and it's driving towards me. And as it's coming towards me, I'll pull over as far as I can to give it plenty of room for it to go by. And as it's going by, I notice that there's this little blonde crackhead sitting and driving. She's got a cigarette in one hand. She's talking on the cell phone. She's got somebody sitting beside her. And then she looks at me, gives me the finger, and then says, blankety blank to you. So if I were to fill out the thoughts, I've been writing everything that I just said there. Matter of fact, I kind of revealed that there was a couple of things that, really, a blonde crackhead, is that a stereotype, or was that what I was saying? Matter of fact, just in the moment that they drove by, I noticed that there was a guy sitting beside her. He looked like he was about 5'10", 220, and I thought I could take him. This is how I'm processing this in the moment at 6 a.m. at a McDonald's parking lot, 50 miles from here. Now, if you were to ask me what was my emotional response and what was my physical response, well, my emotional response was rage. All right, if I wasn't doing this at the church, I might use a different word. well, rage was the blood boiling. What did I do? Well, here's what I did. The car, after it passed me, pulled into the first spot right outside the McDonald's entrance. I stopped my vehicle right there in the middle of the road. I got out and I went and I stood right in front of the blue Toyota Tercel. Now, she hadn't gone out yet and he hadn't gone out yet. And what happened is they started talking to each other. And, when you're out there in that predicament, you start asking yourself a lot. Things slow down, all right? And so the things slowed down. And then finally, it seemed like I was out there for an eternity. And so I said, look, and I'm talking to them in the Toyota Tercel. I said, look, one of you got to get out of the car. And like my insinuation was, I'm going to pound you, whoever gets out of that car. Well, then they start talking again. Now, one of the things I left out was I was in the Air Force at that time. I was in uniform. I was a senior master sergeant. I held a prominent position on the base. And I started thinking, and here's what I saw. The Belleville News-Democrat newspaper fly across the sky, and the lead article said, Senior Master Sergeant assaults harmless girl. Like, I figured that's the way they're going to write that up. And now if I was in the thought consequences chart, instead of my rights being violated, I'm thinking I'm going to lose my career. If one of them gets out and I got to follow through on my posturing. And so I'm looking for a way out of this situation. And then it presents itself. The guy, he rolls his window down about 2 inches and he sticks his lips up to the window. I can still see that. And he says, she was talking to me. Now I know she was talking to me. I saw her eyes. I saw her looking at me. But when he said that, I saw my way out. And so I walked by, and as I walked by, I said that was the right answer. And I got in my car, and I turned around to see if he was coming, because that was pretty inflammatory. Well, I turned around, and he still got his lips up to the 2-inch opening in his window, and now his middle finger's sticking out, and he's saying some bad stuff to me. Now, what do? Do I get back out and I go over there and I fix that problem? No, I shut the door, started my car, and I went to work. Now, let me ask you, do you think that I ever thought about that anymore the rest of the day? Yeah, that's right. That guy and girl lived rent-free in my head. Matter of fact, I have not gone to that McDonald's again to this day. Now, I've gone to the gas station that's right beside it, which was really all I was going to, but I'm never going back to that McDonald's. When I drive by that McDonald's, I think about this. What do I think about now? Do I think about, man, I almost got to pound that guy into sand? No, you know what I think about is I think about if that guy would have got out of the car, I wouldn't have had the career that I did. It would have probably ended there. I would have had to get out of the military very shortly thereafter. My whole life could have taken a whole different trajectory. I think we've all got similar stories where we've gotten out of the car. And because you've gotten out of the car, and you know what? Hear me. It may not have been a car. It may have been another situation. It may have been a relative. It may have been a friend. It may have been someone at work. And you did something that you regret. And it changed a lot of things. See, this is why I can tell that story. I'm embarrassed about that story. I'm embarrassed that that's the way I behaved. But the reason why I can tell you that is because I know that I'm not alone. And I want you to know that you're not alone. It's easy for all of us to make foolish mistakes. The question is, what do we do about that? So, let me switch back to the screen. And so what I want to do is I want to share with you guys a couple of video examples, and then I want to walk through this ABC's chart, all right? So normally I'm doing this with a crowd, and I can get responses from you, so I hope that you're staying with this. I hope that, what I hope is that you are, if you haven't printed it up, that you've got that ABC's chart, and like you're starting to think about some of your activating events and some of your thoughts about that and the emotional and physical response to that. So let me see if the first video is going to play. All right, so I need to go over and find this video. Give me a second here. Isn't it crazy how that you think that you know where something's at, and then when you go to look for it, it's gone? All right. Oh, I know where it's at. Thank you very much. All right, so hopefully this video plays again for you. I'm going to try to make it full screen.
You ready for this? I just signed the whole family up for unlimited mobile-to-mobile minutes.
You're kidding. Where's that money coming from, Steve? Did it even cross your mind to ask your wife before signing us up for something so expensive? My mother was right. I should have married John Clark.
They were free. I got them when I signed us up for unlimited messaging.
When you buy AT&T's unlimited messaging plan, families can call any U.S. mobile phone for free. AT&T.
All right, now that is an old commercial, okay? But what I see in there, and so let me just change this over. What I see in there is, let's see, I'm trying to get them all back. What I see is multiple different activating events, okay? So the first activating event that I saw was Steve. It was a positive. He had just signed the entire family up from mobile to mobile, all right? And so if I'm going through this thought chart here, who? Steve. What? Unlimited mobile. Today we don't think anything of that. Back then, apparently, it was expensive. Where did this happen? In the greenhouse. And when did it happen? Let's just say last week. All right. So Steve is excited about this. He shares it with his wife, and this becomes an activating event for her. All right. Same thing. Steve, unlimited mobile to mobile, greenhouse last week. What do you think that she was thinking to herself? What did she say to herself about Steve? You know, matter of fact, I think she said it out loud. How dare you? She may not use those words, but didn't she say, didn't you think about asking your wife? Apparently he didn't. Then what else was she thinking about? Well, she was thinking about her rights were violated, how that he didn't come and ask her about that. And so when our rights are violated, we have that that aggression. And so what did she do? She responded very aggressively, and she brought out John Clark. What'd she say? You know, I should listen to my mom and marry John Clark. All right. And so think about this. Steve, it's positive. He wants to share. That becomes a negative for his wife, you know, and her rights are violated. So she attacks him with John Clark. Now he responds. And you notice how he responds. Matter of fact, let me pull up the thought consequences chart here. And as we go through this, if you look, again, let's see, positive contribution, pride, he shares, plans future achievements. Wife hears that. She hears trespass. My rights are violated because you didn't consult me. And what does she do? She's angry and she's aggressive. She pulls out John Clark and just whaps him over the head with John Clark. Well, when she does that, now he's probably feeling a little bit negative comparison and embarrassed. And so you can see, and I get it, folks, this is a commercial. These are paid actors. This is not a true story, all right? But AT&T didn't spend millions of dollars on getting that together and putting that out there for you and I to watch that if it didn't connect with us emotionally. And so as Steve is shutting the door, he makes that, he drops the bomb, they're free. Well, now that's another activating event for his wife. And so if you look at this, where does the wife fall on this now? All right. Now she's probably experiencing one of two things. Either she realizes she inflicted harm with John Clark on her husband, feels guilty, and she's going to apologize. Or more likely than not, she's going to experience the thoughts of negative comparison. She's embarrassed and she's going to hide. She's going to stay out in that greenhouse until Steve goes to bed, until she sees the lights go out. All depends on how she processes it. If she processes that she hurt her husband, she's going to go in there and apologize. Even though you can't put John Clark back in the bag in a situation like that. It would be better for her to do that than to act like it never happened and hide because of her embarrassment. Because sooner or later, got to have that conversation. All right.
All the boys in the car.
Here's another one.
Crazy girl. I hope she sings this tonight. I know. Hey, Dad, pull over. We need gum.
Marta. Oh, honey? Here's some money.
What do we got here? Hello.
I'm her daddy.
All right. Now, I have no idea what that has to do with the mortgage. But what was the activating event? It depends on who you were. If you're the dad, it was the lights from the cop and the siren. If you were the cops, it's what you're seeing. All right. And so, again, let's just be the father. All right. And so it's who? Bill. Let's just give him a name. I don't know his name. What? A daughter dressed inappropriately. And it looked like he was propositioning. When did it happen? It looked like Friday night. Here, Bill was the cool dad taking the girls to the concert for their favorite musician. And so we're going to just say favorite concert. And Friday night at 7 p.m. Okay, that's subjective. That's the who, what, when, and where. Now, the thoughts, that's a whole different thing. What are thoughts? Now, he went from being the cool dad to, I'm in trouble. What do you think the conversation he has with his daughter? All right. No, I doubt it's like, you're never ever going to walk out of the house dressed like that again. What the conversation he's having with her is, look, we're not going to tell mom about this. All right. I'm going to leave that one right where it's at. Let's see here. Let me find a beep.
Welcome aboard.
You guys didn't see any of that, did you? All right, so here's the last one.
Welcome aboard.
Now you'll know when to stop. The all-new Nissan Altima with Easy Fill Tire Alert. It's our most innovative Altima ever. Nissan. Innovation that excites.
Okay, the reason why I share that video with you is that I think that this skill, ABCs, is a lot like that feature on the Altima of when the tire pressure is going to be too much, it beeps to tell you to stop. And so because our thoughts lead to our reactions, being able to know that and respond accordingly. So let me show you. So what is our goal with this skill of ABCs? It's simply this: to be able to separate the activating event from the thoughts that we have and the consequences that result from it. Now that is a whole lot easier for me to say that sitting here right now. Because when you had your activating event earlier today, you had a lot of thoughts. And most of you think that that activating event and those thoughts were one. And you naturally had an emotional response and a physical response. And again, I don't know what those were. I haven't had any of you tell me what your ABCs or activating events were, so I can't speak to those for you. But my guess is that your activating event and your beliefs and your consequences were all mumbled together. And what this allows you to do, to be able to write this down on this chart, to be able to write down the who, what, when, and where, to write down the thoughts. What, I thought he was insane, a loser. How dare they say those things about me? And then to be able to write down your emotion. I felt betrayed. I felt worthless. I felt useless. And then the physical response. You know what? I checked out. I went and took a nap. I quit my job. You fill in the blank. And if you can separate the A, B, and C, what you'll find out is that you will be much more productive in that situation. Because really, this skill has gives you the opportunity to stop things before you get them going too far, too wrong. So what's the takeaway with ABCs? Well, I hope this. Number one is, what are some things that I hope you learn? I hope that you learn that you really can slow down your thinking and think before you act. Think before you have that emotional response, and before you do something that you're going to regret. How can you use this skill to improve your performance? Well, if you're like me, there were many times in my military career, there were many times in different relationships that I've had that I responded too quickly. All right. Matter of fact, there's probably people out there saying, yeah, I'm still doing it on Facebook, where I'll come across something and I'll write a comment on, or I'll forward it, or I'll share it, or you get the point. But what we want is to improve our ability to have better relationships. We've got to recognize that, sometimes we have an emotional response that we're not even aware of. We don't even know where it came from. And because of that, and now that you can line up that if I think this, I'm going to feel this, and I'm going to do this, this gives you a little bit of control over your own life again. And I hope you take that. And the last thing is, how can ABCs be used to build stronger relationships? Think about how frustrating it's got to be. I'm not going to do this to Carrie, but I could bring her over here and she could share with you many times where my response, I thought, here's a good one. Just watching the Last Dance. It's a documentary series about the Chicago Bulls and doing the 2-3 peats. If you're not a basketball fan, sorry, this may not be relevant, but I was a big Chicago Bulls fan back in the day. And I remember when the Chicago Bulls would be, it'd be a 7-game series. And if they won a game, I was on cloud 9, life was great. And if they lost, I would sulk, I would pout, until they would win, or and if they lost a series, oh my goodness. And she had to put up with that. I mean, she had to deal with me. So was that healthy for our relationship? No. That was 30 years ago. All right? And I still think about that. I'm probably, now as I'm saying that, Carrie's like, yeah, I remember that. I mean, I remember where I was at when we were had gone down to MacDill Air Force Base. We were staying in a billeting, doing house hunting. And like in the evenings, the series was on. And I remember getting so mad and upset and not wanting to go out because the Bulls lost. Stupid, I know. But, when you're young, you do stupid things, right? Guess what? When you get older, you do stupid things too. And if you knew you were about to do something stupid, most of us wouldn't do it. Certainly as we've gotten older. All right. Younger, maybe we still do it. I don't know. Okay. Let's see. Summary. Just the facts, who, what, when, and where. That's the activating event. Your hot thoughts, remember this, they're not just one or two, there's hundreds of them, and you've got to be honest with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, the rest of it won't make sense. And then take responsibility for the consequence, the emotional one and the physical one. And so if you were to think back to the core competencies, what core competency would this strengthen? So there they are right there: emotion regulation, impulse control, optimism, mental gymnastics, social awareness. Which one of these core competencies would it help out with? Well, I think it's all of them, but certainly emotion regulation when you understand your ABCs. Impulse control, absolutely. Social awareness, probably. Matter of fact, what you will find out is once you start putting two and two together with how you think and what you're doing and why you're doing it, it's going to help you understand other people. And don't make the mistake of jumping and using this information to go and show other people what they're doing wrong and how they're harming themselves. I want have them watch this and let them make that self-discovery. But what you want to do is realize where you're at, how your activating events control your thoughts and how your thoughts drive your behaviors, both the emotional and the physical one. Okay, next week I'm going to preach a sermon called Going Deep on Sunday. And I'm going to talk about us as our soul. And then next Monday night, I'm going to come and I'll talk to you about the third skill. So the first skill was finding blessings. The second skill was learning your ABCs, basically being able to identify that activating event, your beliefs or thoughts about that activating event, and then the corresponding emotional and physical response because of that. Next week, I'm going to talk about something that's not surface, that's not something that you can readily identify, but something that is a part of you. It's your DNA. It's who you are. But it probably has caused you a lot of grief. It's caused you a lot of pain, and most likely caused you a lot of broken relationships. So I hope you join me Sunday night, 10:45, for the message, and then on Monday night at 7 p.m. as I talk about detecting icebergs. All right, you guys have a great night. Talk to you soon.